Hey everyone, so today we will be talking about Social Security. Okay, and everyone has something to say on the topic, and everyone gives their two senses on it, most of which is Social Security's dead, right? Like, I'm not banking on it, I'm not going to see it, it's dead. Well, I'll give you our 2 cents on it here at Fiducia. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to couple the statistics and history and see what that tells us. Will Social Security be around? Let's find out. So, what do we know? Let's start with some of the history. Social Security. We know it was started as a direct response to the Great Depression, right? Social Security popped up on the radar in 1935. It was a direct response to the Great Depression, and at that time, if we look at some of the statistics, uh, the average life expectancy of a male in 1935 was 61 years of age, and a female is 65. Okay, so average male 61, average female 65. And yes, it's always been that way. Women live longer than men. Men do stupider stuff and we die earlier. That's just how it's been, right? Like that's factual at this point. So you couple that life expectancy statistic with in 1935 when Social Security started, the earliest you can collect Social Security was 65. Today it's 62, but back then it was 65. That jumps out at you, right? So the way it was structured back then, the average person would never see a Social Security benefit, right? The males dying at 61, they're dying long before Social Security at 65. And the average female is dying the year of their eligibility for Social Security. So the average person would never see a Social Security benefit back when it was started. And that's how it was intended, right? Social Security was intended really back then to provide for the vulnerable. And what that looked like was elderly people, people that were outliving the norm. They were considered the vulnerable. Could have been people that were disabled. They had dependent child, whatever it is, right? If you got a pool of 10 people in a room together back then and asked them, hey, who does Social Security provide for? They would tell you the vulnerable, that pool of people. Fast forward to today, if you got a pool of 10 people in a room together and asked them, hey, who does Social Security provide for? They're going to tell you everyone. Like, no one's off limits. And the reason why is because today, the average life expectancy of a male is 76. Okay. And a female is 81. And the earliest you can collect Social Security is 62, right? So that's about well, if you're a male, that's a 14-year period of Social Security benefits. If you're a female, that's 19 years. So back then, the average person never collected Social Security. Today, everyone's collecting Social Security. I think the statistics tell us like somewhere around 40% of older Americans rely solely on Social Security for income. Everyone's collecting it. Now, I know some of you are saying at this point, exactly, right? Like, exactly, Tyler. Social Security is dead. It's a broken system. Well, stick with me, okay? Because with these issues, there are solutions. Now, what we know is Social Security's funded by payroll taxes, okay? So as long as people keep on paying their payroll taxes, there's going to be some funding that goes into Social Security. Now, what we're paying in payroll taxes isn't covering what's coming out for benefits to people that are retired, right? So our payroll taxes that we're paying is lower than what's coming out in benefits that people are collecting. And what that deficit looks like, payroll taxes is covering about 81% of the benefits coming out. So there's about a 19% deficit. And Social Security has a trust fund, right? Some of you may be aware of this. The trust fund for Social Security Trust Fund, it's been around since the inception of Social Security, and there's a couple $1 trillion sitting in that trust fund. Well, that's where that 19% deficit is being subsidized, is that Social Security Trust Fund. That couple $1 trillion is going down each year because that 19% is being subsidized with it. And that Social Security Trust Fund is set to run out in 2034. That's what they're projecting the equilibrium, the break-even point to be, where, hey, that trust fund is going to have $0 in it. Today, it has a couple trillion, sounds nice, but in 8, 9 short years, it's projected to have zero. Okay. So that all of this is building up to some of the solutions, but it's important to keep that in mind. Now, if we think about this logically, you're probably sitting at the other side of the camera and you're thinking, or the other side of the laptop, or wherever you're coming from. I don't know. But I appreciate you being with me thus far. So some of you are probably thinking, okay, Tyler, you've mentioned these solutions a lot. What are they, and why haven't they been imposed up to this point? That's a completely valid question, right? Like if there's solutions to this issue, this deficit, why hasn't it been brought to the table? Well, if we think about this for a second, someone running for a position in power, right? Like maybe they're doing a campaign. If they come to the stand, they're giving this speech in this park or this auditorium or this stadium, and they say, hey, I'm going to fix Social Security. I'm going to fix it. And you hear someone from the nosebleeds call out like, hey, how are you going to do that? Well, this person that's running for this position in power, there's only so many solutions that they can pose, right? Like this isn't one of those issues that has like a tree branch of solutions. This isn't one of those situations. There's only a few solutions to it. One of them that's completely viable is increasing taxes, or maybe decreasing Social Security benefits. So this person that's running for this position in power, they say, hey, I'm going to increase taxes. Do you think they're getting votes from the working class? No way. Let's angle it a different way. Hey, I'm going to decrease Social Security benefits. Do you think retirees are going to vote for this person? Do you think the elderly community is going to vote for that? No way. So you have this issue where the solutions are unpopular, right? This person's not going to gain popularity by posing these solutions. In fact, it's going to go backwards, right? They will lose votes. So what have people done? They've kicked the can down the road, right? Like this has been a natural solution to a lot of different things, right? I mean, a bunch of people in America do this. Not everyone, but a bunch of people, they kick the can. That's what we've seen. Now, I told you a little bit ago, this Social Security Trust Fund set to run out in 2034, right? So the end of the road is coming. You can only kick this can so far before it reaches the end of the road. And in 2034, that's what I view as the end of the road. Now, if we look at some of these solutions, I've already posed a couple. Hey, we decrease Social Security benefits, or maybe we increase taxes, or it could even be a combination of the two. This is something that we've seen before. Okay, I think it's Harry S. Truman that said, there's nothing new in this world. The only thing that's new is the history you do not know. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I just like the quote. But if we think about this, in 1977, President Carter, he increased taxes. He decreased Social Security benefits. He did that. The other thing that he did do was he grandfathered people in. And if you're a client here at Fiducia, you've heard me say this a lot. Grandfather provisions, we've seen this time and time again, right? And this is no different in 1977 with these Social Security changes. There was a grandfather provision that said, hey, to this demographic of people, those between this age, these transitional years, you have an option. You can choose one of the two paths moving forward. You can stay with current Social Security, how it is currently, or you can change to new. Pick whichever one benefits you the most. That's how it was. And it would be no different, you would think intuitively today, right? If changes were made to Social Security, people already collecting benefits and those nearing retirement, you would think would be grandfathered in. Now, I'm not telling you, hey, you're going to be grandfathered in, but you would think. We've seen these grandfather provisions in past, even when it came to Social Security directly, and we've seen them in other situations. Alcohol age, right? Like when the alcohol age, when it was increased from 16 to 21, those who were already 16, 17, 18, they were allowed to drink still. So we've seen these grandfather provisions time and time again. They've shown up. So hopefully that gives some of you peace of mind. Now, for someone like me, I'm young. I'm not getting grandfathered into anything Social Security. Okay. But I'm okay with that. I've accepted that. So these are a couple common solutions, right? These are commonplace. These are very viable. Now, another solution, I'm going to put my financial advisor hat on for a second because this is an unlikely solution, but to me, it's something that should have been likely decades ago. Is if you look at Social Security Trust Fund, right? Some of you know of this trust fund. If you take a dive deeper, right? Like take a peek under the hood, have some curiosity, and say, okay, this trust fund that has a couple $1 trillion in it, how is this thing invested? Is it like sitting at some absurd bank? Like, where is this trust fund? Well, if you do that research, you're going to find that this Social Security Trust Fund is invested in the full faith of the U.S. government, or in other words, we're going to say U.S. Treasuries, right? That's how it's invested. And what we know is U.S. Treasuries. If you haven't seen our last video, feel free to check it out. Can I retire? I go in depth about different investment options. And you would have heard me say in that video, U.S. Treasuries historically, depending on what term you're looking at, historically get you somewhere around 4 to 5%. Okay, 4 to 5%. I think today it's like 4.1 or 4.2, but historically it's 4 to 5%. If we back out taxes and we back out inflation, that 4 to 5% net of taxes and net of inflation is right around break even. It's zero. Okay, so our Social Security for the past 90 years since 1935 has been invested in this pool of money that's break even. And now you take today this 19% deficit that we have that's just eroding the trust fund. Okay, so it's pouring gasoline on a fire, right? You have these benefits that's coming out of the trust fund, and the trust fund is basically returning zero after inflation and taxes. That's just making a bad situation worse, right? So the reason why it is this way is because, well, it's written in law that the trust fund's not to be invested in equities, right? And it's primarily due to fear of political interference in the markets. There's fear that there will be political interference if we're investing some of the Social Security Trust Fund in private companies. Well, I just think, okay, let's invest in public companies, right? We've seen this recently with Trump accounts. And if you don't know what Trump accounts are, feel free to do a quick Google search, especially if you're having a kid before 2028. Trump accounts say if you have a kid between 2025 and 2028, we're going to give you $1,000. We're going to give it to you. No strings attached. We're going to give it to you. The only parameters around it, provisions, is that this $1,000 needs to be invested in low-cost index or mutual funds that track something like the S&P 500. It's genius, right? That is brilliance at its best. The reason why it's written that way is because they know that things like the S&P 500 are if we're throwing $1,000 into our kid's account and we're waking up 18 years later to pull it out for a university, the greatest place to store that money for 18 years is the stock market. I'm not talking individual companies, but baskets of companies like the S&P 500. This is the best place to put it. Why? Because it's returned on average 10% since inception, right? Like 95 years. So it's written that way with Trump accounts, but definitely not our Social Security trust fund. And we look at things, if we compare it to things like Canada's Social Security Trust Fund, I think they call it their pension plan, is how they call it. If you look at their pie chart, I'll throw it up on the screen. Their pension plan is invested in a diversified manner. And there is private companies on there, right? Like maybe we would have to extract that here in the United States so there isn't this risk of political interference in private companies. But if we just invest it publicly, have equities as a portion of it, uh, this trust fund would have been outpacing inflation for the past decades, right? And if we had this investment allocation decades ago, Social Security would be growing at a rate that's outpacing the deficit or what's coming out of it. But the hay's in the barn, right? So this solution, it's likely not a solution anymore because the deficit's just too great. Too much money's coming out. But there is solutions, right? And hopefully there's peace of mind knowing that uh, if there's something else you want to see, more information you want to know, questions that you have, comment down below, or feel free to visit our website, shoot me an email. I'm very responsive to email. But like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to keep on pushing out this content. There's no shortage of things on Fiducia's mind. So we're going to be here. We're trying to be a resource. We're trying to help the public. And stay tuned for our next video.